Good day and welcome to a new video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe! Hello and welcome today. Today you're joined by me, Daniel, and I'm just chatting about a few things here and there, I'm an artist here from New Zealand, as I am, and yeah, I'm creating this book at the moment. I've got a few projects here and there that I'm creating, like if you do watch my weekly streams, you would see that I stream on a Tuesday every week, and yeah, it's pretty good. I do that, and then I do my YouTube videos. The projects at the moment I'm doing, so I'm doing some creature design. I'm creating some creatures that I've done for Inktober, and I'm creating them through so I'm just creating some ink drawings there, and I have chosen the first one, as I usually do every year. Like the first drawing I seem to want to paint up and create it. For some reason, that seems to be the thing at the moment. It's taking the first drawing and painting it up. And there are actually quite a few drawings in there that I may want to one day paint up. But at the moment, I don't have all the time in the world to paint them all. Maybe along the way, maybe when finishing this book, I could take a few more of those ideas and paint them up. It's been an interesting process doing that, taking that ink and actually painting it up. Yeah. And yeah, today I wanted to chat a little bit more about getting thrown in the deep end today. Getting pushed in the deep end of a pool, metaphorically, not physically. I mean, physically, it's the same kind of thing. You get thrown in a pool, and then you got to learn how to swim like very quickly, otherwise someone has to come get you, and things like that. And it's not the best situation to be in. I've always, been thrown in the deep end. I was quite short. I've always been short, so I've always been on the kind of deep end of the pool very quickly. I would only have to make it halfway, and it would kind of be above my head. So literally and metaphorically, I have been like pushed into like the deep end of doing something, like per se, like at one of my workplaces, doing traffic control per se. I wouldn't exactly thrown in the deep end like straight away. I was kind of doing a simple road. I didn't know what I was doing though. I was like, oh, here's a thing, just do this, and I was figuring it out along the way. And eventually, I got really quite good at it, and I was actually alright at doing it. It started out a bit like, what is this? How do I do it? And things like that. Thrown in the deep end of actually doing it. Luckily it was only like a kind of a road. If you don't know what traffic control is, basically, controlling traffic. New Yorkers do it, left, right, blah blah blah. But now just stopping traffic and making sure they get sent at the right time, so that they go around the roadworks and things like that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just stopping traffic, and I didn't know where to send them, But eventually, it was just asking questions and finding out the answers, and just going along with my day and getting the job done. Eventually, over time, I actually knew how to do it, and it's the same with a few other jobs that have had over the years. Just been thrown in the deep end, like do this job, do this. Same with like my illustration, my courses that I've done for illustration, these books and things. With this book, not no, not this book, but the book that I did for School of Design that I did over in Wanganui when I was doing my bachelor's for that. I was kind of thrown in the deep end with that, because I didn't know, like, no one was there to teach me how to create a book. So I've had to figure things out for myself, writing the book. I had lots of help though, I was really struggling trying to get the words across properly, and trying to make the story make sense, and also like make sure that it had a bit more meaning than just a random story that might be interesting. I try to make things have a purpose as well. I didn't want it to be just a story for no reason, like Joe went to the shop. Like I wanted it to tell a bit more of like Joe went to the shop because he wanted a pack of popcorn or something. It's got that little bit more narrative to it, and that's the story I wanted to tell. If you don't know that one, I wrote Junkyard Adventures and I illustrated it. And then I also did I screen printed the cover, and that was full color screen print. And with full color screen print, it was very, very hard. Like it was really hard to get right. Um, there was not really anyone else doing kind of full color print like I was trying. Everyone's done it before, and they did it and were over it. They were like, nah, I don't want to do this, because the process was like, you've got to get your image, you've got to put blue on it, you've got to put red on it, and then you put yellow on it, so RGB, or CMYK basically, and black on it, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. There's 4 colors, and you got to put them in their different orders, in the right orders. And it's so hard to like get precise as well when you're screen printing on. If you don't know what screen printing is, basically when you got like this film screen, it's covered with this icky green stuff, like moldy stuff that makes sure that if it goes on that area, it doesn't get through. So it leaves you a stencil basically that it feeds through your ink through, and it goes onto the paper or fabric. I was doing fabric at the time, and it's also hard with fabric because it can shrink and warp, and it can move. It's not as easy as like sticking down paper and getting the right it in the right places. It was a nightmare. I got one. I think in the end I got one good looking front cover for my book. I don't know why I wanted to do fabric. I just guessed that I would enjoy the process, and I wanted to figure out more while I was, I had the opportunity to use these resources that I couldn't use at like home, so I might as well, dig it into other places. And also it freed up a little time, because that was a little bit of part of my project for that course, so it was like merged. I had to figure out that thing too, like me wanting to create this book. I had to figure out like how to manage my time, how to do these classes as well as working on my book at the same time without destroying the book, or without having a crappy outcome at the end, or failing my course or something like that. So it was very stressful, and it did I had to manage time. For instance, I did decide on making maybe like a little projects and things, like if there were some of the criterias and things for some of the projects, make sure they weren't like too time consuming to actually do, to create the idea and actually finish the idea, the concept, and to get a final piece out of each class I was doing at the time, so that I did have a lot more time to finish my book and keep that going. Otherwise I wasn't going to get where I wanted to. We had to learn a lot about that, managing time at the time. But yeah, a lot of it we kind of had to pick up on our own. Like there was only so much they taught us in those classes and in these lessons and things. that you'd have to learn so much more on your own. Like, it's basically they'll give you something like, you have to create this image in Photoshop or something, or that you have to create a final piece, and we'll get the you have to do the certain process. So you have to look up your research, you have to do your ideas, and then development and critiques and all that stuff. um but when actually creating it, you only got taught so much. It's like, well, you know this is what is Photoshop. This is Photoshop, this is how you use it, and the rest was kind of up to us to learn. If we needed to learn how to create how to draw and paint a dinosaur or something like that. We were kind of on our own. We had to learn on our own and then teach ourselves to create that stuff. So we were kind of thrown in deep in with those things. But by that level, I already knew how to do all that stuff. I knew how to draw and create stuff, which was awesome. Um, but yeah, it's basically, with getting in that course, yeah, it took that you needed to know how to do all that stuff. There was a lot of like self-learning, especially as the higher levels of learning. It is a lot of self-learning, especially like, yeah, in like courses and things like that. And yeah, in your own like learning, it is kind of up to you really where you want to go, whether you want to kind of take it slow and just learn one bit at a time, and things like that. I heard someone talk about like, just kind of focusing on one path, like focusing on one thing, which is good. It's fine to kind of focus on one thing, and kind of get that really really strong. Like if you want to do characters, well, hone in and focus on that really well. Like get your anatomy right and get that right. um Focus on anatomy. If you want to do characters, human characters, not obviously, I mean, you could do animal anatomy as well, but if you just focus on one thing, just doing human anatomy or something, um, it does get you, somewhere much faster. You're just focusing on getting your anatomy and your drawing people better, and then by the time you've gotten that up to skill, up to standard, that you can just like draw like great humans, realistic drawings of humans. You can then start to draw humans and start like putting them in poses, um, putting different like clothing and things, start changing things up like hairstyles and maybe arm length, or body length and body shape, playing around with body shape a little bit further. um but yeah, if you get to the top of that, that human anatomy stage, it makes those things much easier. It opens more doors up. Once you get to the top of that level, you can start then taking what you know from that whole experience of going all the way with human anatomy, and taking that and putting new characters in it. I've kind of gone in a like all over the place way. I wouldn't say that I went straight for something, although with me loving animals and creatures and wanting to draw those, I've definitely been pursuing and drawing a lot of animals, so I'm towards that. But I do, every now and again I'd stir off and kind of go to a different kind of path and try drawing humans anatomy, or try drawing other things as well, which is good because I don't want to be on one path all the time. It's good to change it up and then get new ideas and things like that. um yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is page 5. If you don't know, I'm creating this book at the moment. I've got 5 pages pretty much done. Yay! And that means I'm a third of the way, pretty much a third of the way. I've got to do the text on all the pages though. I think 3 or 4 of the pages, the text is there. There is like one of the pages I'm struggling with the wording. I'm not sure which way to go. I'm like, I'm not too sure if I should have it saying this, but I don't like the sound of that. I want to change it. So I need to kind of work it out. It's very close though, so it's probably got a little bit more tweaking, and then I'll have the final text for that. So yeah, I've still got to, with these 5 pages, put the text on, place the text nicely, and then think about layout. I obviously got to add the page numbers. I'm not sure, like I think I want like a border on it, just like a thinnish border, not too thin, not too thick, kind of border around the whole image, just to give it a little bit of space. Maybe I might have the page number in that border. I'm not 100% sure. I probably will, if I'm having like a border, I'll probably have like a page number in that border. So I gotta see how that looks and how that fits into the book. Yeah, and then eventually like have a test print, and things like that once I get to that stage. At the moment, I'm at page 5. That means I'm a third way pretty much complete. Yeah, and that means I've still got a wee bit of work ahead of me. I've got another 10 pages to just kind of, well, yeah, about 10ish pages ish to like 9. I actually got 9 to edit. Some of them are to a pretty high standard, like the last few pages are pretty much there. Like they probably need a few more edits and things, probably an hour or two or more, or a couple of hours, but not too much. So that's good. Probably the last page will probably only need like an hour or two maybe. In the last page I had figured it all out. I knew how to paint it. Here's another thing, I didn't exactly, I know I've painted grass and scenery before and things like that, and I keep doing it, and I love doing it, and when I started, not this book, but the book before it, the Junkyard Adventures, I was really bad at like, doing backgrounds and things, so in doing that, it was like, I was throwing myself in the deep end again, being like, well, I've got to create these, backgrounds of some sort. I just can't have the characters, just interacting with each other. So I need them to feel like they're actually in the environment, So, I had a lot to learn about creating environments and fitting them into environments. I do that all the time, it's you feel like you don't know it and you avoid it for so long sometimes, you just stay in your lane sometimes, heading towards creating awesome characters, but then it's like putting them in an environment and you become so lost. You get a bit stuck, and that's another thing about like staying in one lane, is that if you want to put your character in a scene and scenario, like a storytelling scenario, or get asked to do something else, you don't exactly know it. Excuse me. It does take a while. Like I do kind of recommend leveling up like one thing at a time. Because you can get that skill to a really really high level, and then you can bring something else into it. Yeah, what was interesting because when I started School of Design in my first year of actually doing the School of Design here in Palmy is level 3, I think. Well, yeah, level 3. I failed level 2 the year before. Um, and so, um, in the first few weeks, they were like giving me projects, and I was just kind of finishing them in that week or in like a week and a half or something like that. Where other students would take like 2 or 3 weeks, possibly. Um, some a bit longer. So I was like constantly going up to the tutors and being like, "Can I have another project?" And got given another project, or being like, "What can I do now?" Like getting um a bit kind of agitated that there wasn't a lot of work as I wanted a bit more. I wanted more taste. Like each project was kind of a tiny little taste of things. And then, I went to a meeting that I shouldn't have been in because I wasn't at that level at the time. But I went to a meeting anyway. I just thought, anyway, they yelled out, anyone interested in doing the Cliffs project, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to the table. And I just was like listening in and really interested in doing this project. Um, but because I was just started level 1, blah blah blah, it was like, no, sorry, we won't give you this. And I was so disappointed. I was like, oh no, really really looking forward to doing a little bit more work. Um, but I went back. I focused a little bit more on the other projects I was doing at the time. And then, a couple months went of me, chewing through projects and things like that. And then, another one of these meetings went, who's interested in this project? And it was another year 2 project. Um, and I did it. I was like, I'll take it, and I actually got in this time. They were like, yeah, we'll let you in this time. You seem to be able to keep up with all your work and having this extra project, blah blah blah. You'll be alright with it. So it took a little bit of trust, but in the end, they gave me the project, and it was a really, I was in the deep end. I kind of had a grasp of what I was doing, and I understood how to do it and things like that a little bit. I was still learning, obviously. Um, but yeah, I just, I took it really well, and I just kept on going. And that project I felt turned out pretty good. I wouldn't say um, I'd had the best result in the world, but I had fun and I learned a lot from doing those projects. Um, but they were above my level, and it really, yeah, it did push me. That's what helps. Getting pushed in the deep end does kind of help you in a way. It does learn things. Some people, learn that way. They learn by doing. Others kind of need a bit more theory and guidance before getting to that stage. Um, and things like that. It's like if you, per se, you're work for a studio or something, you want to go work for a studio. Some people learn better if they're actually at the studio and they actually do a couple of days at the studio, and we're like, oh, this is how do you do it. Versus someone that does all theory and learns from other people how to do it, blah blah, and then one day eventually ends up in the studio. Um, but yeah, everyone learns in their different ways. Definitely, getting chucked in deep end for me does kind of help me a little bit. There are obviously, I do know how to cope with it. If I had to learn something on the spot, I kind of go around and actually learn it. One of my good tutors, or someone I heard. I can't remember now if it was it my tutor, I think. Um, yeah, I think I've heard it from a tutor. It's basically, don't deny the job if you don't know it, like learn it. Just take what you can and learn it as you go. Um, which is, it's good advice. Because it's, you get offered a job and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, I'll do it, and but you can go bad by that because you could completely fail on your ass, um, and get a bad result or something. Like someone asks you to do a painting of a child or something, or something, and it can go wholly wrong because you've done a really bad drawing and you think it's okay. But you show the client and they don't like it, blah blah blah. It yeah, it can go wrong, but you probably learn something. Like that you're not good at that. Um, so I've definitely done a few kind of paintings and things of humans for people and things like that, and I don't think they're the best. Um, but I did learn a lot from those experiences, from me drawing those things for people. Um, but I have a lot more to learn. But yeah, check yourself in the deep end, and that's a great, strategy to learn. Like, um, say you want to do character design. What do you do? Do you learn all the theory, or do you actually try and create a character? Um, it's a great way, just create the character, keep creating the character, and your first results may be crappy. Um, but yeah, also, take steps back. I was doing a lot of research and things like that. While I'm, in kind of this deep end, getting, have to create a character for someone. Um, for instance, probably last year or something, I was doing some kind of freelance work stuff. It was just fun. It was just me kind of doing it for the hell of it, for someone to try and um, do something different. And it was, involved a little bit of character design. It involved like backgrounds, creating a comic kind of a thing. Um, and you might have seen one of my paintings here on the YouTube channel for it. Excuse me. You might have seen one of the paintings or something on the YouTube channel, or things like that. And yeah, like I did do that. So that I did for probably, I did it for about 4, 5-ish months, but I only did like a couple of hours a week or something. I was kind of not knowing where I was going per se. Like I was on kind of part-time-ish work, um, going into kind of fullish time-ish work. So I was still kind of painting at home a lot, but not all the time. So I was figuring it out how much hours I kind of had each week. Some weeks where I had heaps of time. I kind of got into the project when it was before I kind of started working. I had like a lot of time where I was illustrating, just creating full time pretty much, as much as I can. So I did have a free time to do other projects like that that wasn't kind of to do with my YouTube channel, or to do with like building my portfolio stuff and things like that. So yeah, I did have that project I was doing, and me doing that project, I didn't know a lot of the stuff I was doing, like human characters. I was kind of knew that I was bad at it, and I did it and I improved. I reckon it was a great result because I got good at drawing humans a bit more better. Um, Now that feel more confident about it, and I created some cool poses. I was trying to do like backgrounds and create environments and things. I hadn't created many environments before, um, so yeah, I had to learn all these things while I was trying to create this kind of mini comic book kind of thing. In the end, it kind of I lost time. Now I'm doing my YouTube channel all the time, so I didn't have time to keep it up. Unfortunately, I mean, I'd like to go back to it again one day. But at the moment, I've got to keep on doing this YouTube channel to keep it going, and doing this book as well, because I believe this book would be really cool when I've finished it. It can be printed, yeah, and be published and stuff like that. Would be awesome. So it's heading towards something, in result. I can add these pages to my portfolio and things like that. I'm looking at like reviewing again. It's not too far from that actually. It's Inktober. So yeah, usually after I've done Inktober, kind of November, December. There isn't long to go for this year, but I usually review like what I've done this year and all that stuff. In my portfolio, how that's looking with my work. If I need to like add anything, or what I'm gonna do, I'll probably end up adding some of these pages that I've got into my portfolio, kind of a thing. Yeah, I review my year, and I make every year I do like a New Year's resolution kind of a video where I just talk about how this year's gone, what I plan to do better next year or this year, whatever, and things like that. I've been thinking about that a little bit because I know last year, my ambitions was that I wanted to do I wanted to do twice as many illustrations as last year, twice as many videos, YouTube videos, twice as many other things, portfolio pieces, I guess. I can't remember them all, but I remembered most of them. Twice as many like Instagram posts, I guess. Yeah, and just be a little bit more productive, maybe. All those ambitions, basically, that was most of it. Keep these videos up each week. Make sure that I keep each video up, which I have done so far ever since start of when I started it, probably like November, I think, when I started doing these weekly streams. So I think I've achieved most of my goals. I mean, I have to kind of review it. Obviously, I've got to look at if I have created twice as many videos as last year. I've definitely been more kind of fluent, I guess. Is that the word? I've been more consistent. I've had one each week, which is good. Where last year I only had a video every 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, that's another thing. What I got throwing deep in is these streaming videos, these YouTube videos. A lot of us don't know what we're doing at the start. Obviously, you just kind of create these videos, not knowing where they'll go, how many views, how you're going to create these videos. what you're creating, because a lot of YouTubers out there, video creators, when you start out, you kind of mostly just want to create YouTube videos. You usually don't have a goal. Sometimes you do, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You have a goal. It's awesome. You have a kind of video you want to create each week or each month or whatever. How consistently you'll post. You have all that planned out, and it flops or something. I don't know. It doesn't work out, and then things happen. Um, but for me, I got thrown in the deep end for that because I had no clue on what I was like doing with these videos to begin with. I was kind of just wanting to get my artwork a little bit more out there while I'm trying to paint and create stuff. So I thought I'd do like streams. We stream every now and again, whenever I've got the time to, and just paint. I was doing the creatures at the time. And that eventually, I figured things out, try to get the audio and the, like I was doing music at the time in the background. Now don't do any music. Um, and now I've just kind of figured out how to kind of make sure there's no buzzy sound in the background. And these little tweaks that I learned over time, just by keeping on doing it, and making my videos better, making what I'm doing better every time I do it. So yeah, I was just kind of streaming on YouTube, and YouTube kind of failed for me because it wasn't working. You'd have cutouts, and the video would not turn out the best, things like that. And then I streamed to Twitch, and Twitch just was so much better. I could stream to Twitch whenever I want. You know, how many ever times during the day, whenever I feel like it. I would have no restrictions to the channel. There wouldn't be any problems with streaming during the day. I could play music. Obviously, if I play my own music, background music and stuff like that, it would obviously cut out the audio because it would be copyrighted. But if I played uncopyrighted music, it wouldn't cut out. Those things I learned over time. So it was really just learning, and even learning how to stream. It took me a little while just to learn how to stream. There was no one there kind of, this is how you stream, this is what you should be doing while streaming, blah blah blah, this is how you paint and stream at the same time. It got really interesting to do. And yeah, I had friends in, talking to them while I was streaming. Yeah, and in the end, I just focused on a few things here and there. Yeah. So usually, yeah, I do have artists in, and I'm hoping soon we will have some artists in. I've had quite a few topics that I've talked about in the last few weeks. I've talked about using your time wisely. I yeah, quite a few topics here and there. I talked about last week. Being tired and illustrating, because I do, I have a full-time job. So when I get home, I've got things to do, like cook tea and look after Bubba and things like that. And then I might be tired by the time I get to my desk to illustrate. So most of the time when I'm illustrating, I'm tired. And, I get through it. I get the illustration done still. There are nights that I do more than others, and I kind of accept that. There is only so much I can do. As long as I stay here, then there are like opportunities too. There are days I have off, like off of work, that I can kind of use to get more illustration done, and I have kind of leave that I can use in next year, that I'll be probably having some time where I can paint and create a lot more stuff. For 2 weeks and things like that, where I could probably get myself like a really big chunk ahead of time, um, so that I can have a little bit of time. But yeah, it's just using whatever opportunities I can get, and that's what you should do when you do get yourself into like the deep end of the pool. Is use it as an opportunity to learn. There are a lot of people that obviously get to that point and just kind of drown. Like they just sink to the bottom. They don't learn or try and figure out what they're actually doing here and how to get to the other side, the shallow end, the easy side of life. Getting put in the hard side of life is obviously hard, but you gotta get them someday, I suppose. Um, yeah. So thanks for joining me. I hopefully you did learn something, either about myself or just hopefully you've learned something, about using your opportunities wisely and thinking about ways you can learn things. If you do yourself get thrown in deep end, feel free to hit a comment down below. I'd love to hear your stories or anything like that. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you probably sticked around to the end of the video if you've listened to this point. It's great. I love all you guys that do come in and do watch my videos. I really do appreciate it. I've been doing quite a few videos now by myself. But yeah, I've been doing quite a few videos. I do 2 a week now on YouTube. I've done that since like the end of last year, I think. Don't quote me on that. But I've done it for quite a while now, and I believe I will keep it up, until the end of time, I think. I may, eventually, over time, if this channel grows, I think I will end up doing like more than 2. But we'll see, how that goes, if I do end up doing that once it grows a little bit more. But don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe if you do, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Good.